Yep. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference. Today, we are talking to Melissa Teers, all the way from New York. Melissa, how are you?
Well, I mean, I'm good considering the fall of democracy and the rise of fascism. Other than that, I'm pretty good.
Well, you're preparing for Ireland very well with all what's behind you. Green walls, green plants.
You know what's funny? All these plants were rescues. So during COVID, my sister, who works for legal aid, had a bunch of plants and they weren't letting us back in the buildings. It was like 2 weeks and 2 weeks and 2 weeks, as you know, that stretched out.
Mm.
And so my sister was like, who is watering the plants? So she rented a van. We weren't supposed to leave, weren't supposed to get out. She snuck in to the building. She saved like 100 plants and
Wow.
brought them here. She lives in my building. She's got an apartment. And she's like, you have to take a bunch of plants. And I'm like, no, no, no. I kill plants. I can barely keep aloe alive. Like, don't give it to me. And she looked at me and she said, you've got windows and sunshine. You're taking these fucking plants.
Well,
And
you're
so,
still standing.
it was like I became a plant lady. And I figured out that if you name them, the guilt keeps you attentive.
Yes. That's a nice reframe. That is a really
Anyway.
nice reframe. I like that. Well done.
So yeah, so now and this is just one room. Like in all rooms around all the so yes, I have lots of plants and yes, I am so looking forward to Ireland. My grandma was Annie O'Brien, so I got Irish blood and I'm excited. I'm excited for this conference.
We're delighted you're coming. We're delighted. I can't wait to welcome you to Dublin. It's going to be an amazing few days. For those who want to know more about Melissa Teers, who is she? Give us a very brief synopsis. Very brief. Go on.
Who is she? Well, I mean, that's a question I ask myself all the time. But as far as what I'll be bringing to Dublin, and all you need to know about, I guess, is that I'm a hypnotist. I've written some books that people seem to like. I've been doing this work for about 30 years. I teach a class on coaching the unconscious mind, and integrative hypnosis is my kind of style of hypnosis and practical neuroscience. So for me, I think more than, I mean, I guess I could say I'm an ex rock and roll musician. Um, and I've just been obsessed with the nature of consciousness and altered states of consciousness my entire life. I'll be bringing a lot of that to Dublin because I'm marrying two of my favorite um, kind of topics in this field. One is, a bit of practical neuroscience. How do we do a conversational brain change, which is the pre-conference class that I'm doing. It's a full day of really looking at how do we use conversational hypnosis to strategically change the brain. And I don't necessarily mean neurons that fire together, wire together, and that kind of normal uh, through repetition style of neuroplasticity. I'm looking at like therapeutic memory reconsolidation. How do we use our language to turn on, turn off certain brain regions through our communication. So I'm going to be bringing that together as well as kind of teaching people what the neural underpinnings of what they're already doing. So whether you're someone who does something like regression to cause or NLP or EFT, I'm going to show you how you're actually hitting the key
Yeah.
components to memory reconsolidation in a way that allows you to be more strategic, to actually have the conversations with clinicians of all kinds. Because, for most of my hypnotic career, my private practice has come from the world of psychiatry and
Okay.
psychotherapy. I work in conjunction with them. Why? Because I can speak their language. And I feel like it's something that I train my students to be able to use, like bullet metaphors from neuroscience, bullet metaphors to explain what we're doing, to bring it down into the language that people can understand. So that, and then my other obsession, which I'll be teaching during the conference, is giving people kind of a taste of my hypnopsychedelics. I spent probably about 15 years modeling people's psychedelic experience, hypnotically modeling, putting them into trance, and then, and then kind of climbing in as they recreate and relive their psychedelic experience. So I can model it, map it, and then create a way of giving people who've never tried an actual psychedelic drug the benefits of, the therapeutic elements of the psychedelic experience in order to make amazing changes. So I've been working on that for about 15 years. So I'll bring that to the conference and show people not only have an experience of it, but how to utilize it. Just I'll take like maybe two or three techniques from
Yeah.
the training, and so that it's immediately actionable. That's one of my things that I insist on all of my students, right? It's not enough to just hear about it. If you want to embody the learning, you're going to practice it. You're going to use it. So in all of my classes, even when I do, because I've been doing conferences for 30 years, even if I have 50-minute lecture, I'm going to do something that's going to get people, moving. That's going to get people to actually play with it, try it, learn it, because otherwise it just goes in and out, especially in a big conference where you're getting so much information. You got to get the body involved. And I know that I have this reputation for being very heady or research oriented, but the truth is, the body is almost more important for
I tend to
really
agree with you absolutely completely. I
learning.
use it all
Yeah.
the time. And I've been in your presentations, particularly in Hypnothoughts. I think I've seen about three or four of them at this stage. And not only are the rooms absolutely full, but everybody is engaged. And it's your style. It's your style. You're doing demonstrations for both individuals and for the groups. I mean, you're bringing people up, you're doing it, but you're also doing it for the people at large. And I mean, I've been there when you're standing across from somebody, and you're actually demonstrating a tech or doing a technique you've just demonstrated with somebody. So it's live and it's interactive, basically.
I feel like having attended countless, over 30 years, I can't even tell you how many conferences. I know what keeps me engaged. One of the things when you do study the brain, you understand attention,
Yes.
activation, how to dose people in dopamine at the right moment, how to give them a little breather with serotonin. Like I play with drugs. And so, you just understanding that much and having been sitting in those seats listening to people for all these years, I know what needs to happen in order for people to not only be engaged but to learn. And so it's fun. I mean, it becomes a way of honing my skills every time I get up there, right? I'm always learning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, I've been in those conferences where, it is just lecture after lecture. There's no demonstration. So, and now in fairness, in Dublin, that doesn't happen to a large degree. Most people will be demonstrating. Um, but particularly in the area of neuroscience, it's something I'm particularly fascinated by. Um, and for a hypnotist, understanding that, what's the importance of that in your mind? Why would you stress to a hypnotist they should understand rather than just learning regression to cause or EFT or whatever it is? Um, Understanding neuroscience, what would be the benefit for them?
Oh my God, so much. I mean, besides what I already discussed, which is learning how to talk about what you do in a way that people outside of the field of hypnosis can understand,
Hmm. Yeah,
right?
very important. We might come back to that one in a moment, but yeah, very important.
To be able to point to, the evidence, the research, and say, here's a brain scan done by this person who was measuring this, and here's how it's relevant to this technique that we all do. Here's what we find out when we look at what mental rehearsal is doing in the brain. Here's what we find out from them studying OCD and how self-directed neuroplasticity changes the brain more rapidly than anyone thought. So not only does it give you a way of speaking about it, it gives you a way of understanding it. One of the things that I try to impress on my certification students is, there is a very, it's kind of just a few steps that are vital for brain change. Once you understand those steps, you can create your own techniques, your own interventions that follow those steps. So people that don't understand those steps, they're shooting in the dark. They're reading a script, they're going by what they were trained in, right? So even regression to cause, which I know there's a lot of infighting.
Discussion, shall we say?
Well, here's, even regression to cause, once you understand the underpinnings of therapeutic memory reconsolidation, and you know how to make sure you're lighting up the relevant neural network of the problem, and then putting in a prediction error and getting the brain's attention, and then reconsolidating that memory with a very different emotional track. Regression to cause will do it. EFT will do it. EMDR will do it. NLP will do it, right? All just traditional talk therapy, if done keeping the brain in mind, they'll do it. Just by utilizing a psychodynamic psychotherapy form. So understanding it makes you better at what you do. It makes it more strategic. It allows you to go off script. I will not ever hand scripts out in any of my classes, ever, because the client is the script. And if you are not paying attention, if you're trying to remember what the script said, or if you're reading something, you're missing the action, right? So it's all about understanding these very simple things. And then everything else is window dressing. And I'm not knocking window dressing, right? Simply because we need novelty. We need dopamine. We need to keep ourselves curious, our clients curious. I use 1,000 techniques, even though I know the basic conversational form will get any job done. Why? Because of the novelty, because of the curiosity and the engagement of both me and my client, right? Understanding how much information is passing between us in any given moment that's outside of conscious awareness allows you to be more cognizant of your nonverbal communication, their nonverbal communication, all of the subtle things that most people are not paying attention to if they're just going by this thing that they've practiced. They're missing it. So, for me, why should hypnotists, psychotherapists, coaches, change workers in general understand this? Because they'll be far more effective in what they do. And one of the things I've been harping on, I've done quite a few keynotes with this theme, which is, I got so sick of, like, there's certain conferences I won't go to anymore because of the infighting, right? The factions. No, my way is the right way. No, my way. All right. There's one person who says, we're the 1%ers that are doing the real work. You fucking moron. Oh, don't get me started. And I got so sick of it, that I'm like, I've been doing these lectures about how we all have, a piece of the elephant, and we're arguing about what an elephant is like. One person's hanging onto the ear and another person's got the tail, but it's the same thing. So I kept saying, what if we're all right? What if you doing that EFT and energy psychology and you NLP and you doing the evidence-based, protocol and you doing regression to cause and you doing some crazy ass primal scream, whatever the hell, and you doing a rebirthing, whatever the hell. What if we're all right? What if underneath all of these, you start to look for patterns and you start to notice that we're all utilizing the same freaking pattern and we're calling it different things. And then we're arguing with each other about it.
Amazing.
So
Genuinely
anyway,
amazing.
did I answer
Because
you?
so many people don't do that. And I know you won't even accept it from me now, but so many people don't go to that level of depth underneath it just to see the structure that builds it and then build from there.
No,
Because you're
because
right. Every
they've been
client was,
trained to read the script. They've
yeah,
been trained to read a script. They've been trained to follow a protocol as if this protocol is the be all end all of change work. And then you get people that are, that cling to it and will not accept anything that just might contradict. So that once you have, I always, it's funny, I always say this quote, and I've been saying it's my favorite. I've been saying it's my favorite quote for years and years. But anytime I go to find out who actually said it, the only one that comes up is me.
well,
So,
it's your quote. We're going to reframe it. It's yours right now.
so I'm like, I've been saying my favorite quote, and then it turns out I just might be quoting myself. Like, how ridiculous is that? Anyway, what I think happened is I butchered the shit out of a quote, and the real thing got lost somewhere along the way because clearly. So anyway, the quote is, um, convictions are what you get when you stop thinking. And I feel like that's what happens. And it reminds me of my favorite quote from Milton Erickson, which was, therapists can't afford the luxury of a theory. Because once you have that theory or once you have that protocol, you are filtering through a very narrow lens.
Yeah.
And you stop getting curious. You stop asking questions. You stop allowing more information, even disconfirming information in, right? We're just scratching the surface of what we know about consciousness, let alone
Yes, absolutely.
unconsciousness. And
Absolutely.
neuroscience is a very young field. So if you're not open to being able to change your mind, you shouldn't be a change worker. Sorry, that was harsh. But
No,
you know
I
what I'm
get that.
saying? Like you have to always be questioning. There are students, as I said, I've been doing this a long time, and I run a practice supervision night every other Wednesday for my students. I don't charge them for it. I just am always wanting to create the course I wish I had had when I started. And when I started, there was no one that was like ongoing where I could ask questions, where I could be like, all right, I have this client and I did this thing, which is supposed to work, but it didn't work. Help. So I've been doing this now for over 20 years, my supervision practice. And so that means that students that were certified by me over 20 years ago will bring up something that they use that I taught them. And I'll be like, oh, that crap. No, 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 no. Here's what we've learned since then. You know what I mean? Like, don't hold me to this shit. Or they'll be like, in your first book. And I'm like, no, don't, don't. That was
So, in other
15
words,
years
we should
ago.
be continually learning for our
Yes, a
clients'
lot has
benefit all
happened
the
since
time.
my first book. A lot has happened since my last book. So I never want people to hold me to anything like that, except that, all we know is we know nothing. And so we keep learning. So
Mm.
anyway, that's why I love this field. There's no cap on it. And I've said this before, but I think it bears repeating. At no point, John, will you and I be having a conversation and we will say, all right, I know everything there is to know about hypnosis. I know everything there is to know about consciousness or the unconscious mind or even the conscious mind at this point. There is no cap. which is why I'm still in this field, because it's inductive and expansive. And my favorite practitioners in this field are the ones that are always expanding. You know, they're the ones that I will check in on. They're the ones that I'm like, what is so and so doing? What is this one doing these days? Right? I just had a great conversation with Connie Ray Andreas. And, she's doing her wholeness work. And even though at first blush, when I first looked at it, I was like, all right, that seems simple. I appreciate her mind enough to look deeper. I'm like,
Right.
this is a woman who was at the forefront of NLP. She and her husband edited my favorite books by Bandler and Grinder. And if you've ever sat with Bandler, you know how good an editor she is. And what she's doing now, when she has all of this wealth of information behind her, same with Ernest Rossi.
Mm.
Some of my favorite Milton Erickson books. He knows so much. He was a protege of Erickson. So what was he doing the last 10 years of his life with mirroring hand? You know what I mean? It's like, I pay
Absolutely.
attention
Yeah.
because one of the patterns is they all get simpler.
Absolutely.
Because you
You know,
start to look at the pattern underneath, and anyway, so I'm a big fan of people that are not afraid to grow. They're not afraid to change their mind. They're not afraid to say, you know what? This isn't the be all end all. This is one way of doing this. And this is another way. And this is another way. And I don't need to bash every other way in
of
order
course.
to sell this thing. That
Yeah.
annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah, no, I
Anyway,
get that.
you
And
can
of
tell I'm
course, every client is different too. So what works
intense.
with one may not work with another. They all have their own permission slips. But actually understanding what you're talking about, and I'm really looking forward to this, understanding the core structures that lie behind neuroscience, because I have a very simple understanding of it. Remove the negative emotion, allow the train tracks in your mind to be reframed. Very simply, if you take out negative emotion, you can allow those train thoughts to be reset in a different direction.
Yes. And if you add just a little bit more to that, then you
Go
become
for it.
even more strategic, right?
Okay.
Because it's not just eliminate the negative emotion. You can eliminate negative emotion and the person will feel good with you in your office. Trance feels good. People go into hypnosis, they come out, they're like, woo, you've just gone into this amazing state. You've heard what you want to hear. You
Mm.
visualize what you want to happen. You feel really good. But if the practitioner didn't do the vital step of making sure that you have lit up the neural network actually, attached to this problem, then that euphoria that they feel will get smacked right out of them when reality comes, when they go back
Mm.
home and dealing with the same situation. So we have to change the negative emotion. We have to actually put in something that can start to systematically reduce that, but also to make sure that it gets connected with the problem network. If it's not, then it's disconnected and they'll feel good for a while. And maybe if you've trained them in self hypnosis and they can keep that going, that's
Mhm.
all they need. But if you want to do far more strategic, actual brain change, then you need to know how to access that, how to
Right.
look for it, how to light it up, how to keep it lit up long, while you are, loading in the reframes, as you say, the different emotions using any one of our techniques, how you condition it in so that you're playing with two forms of neuroplasticity, not just through memory reconsolidation, but also through the kind of counteractive form of neuroplasticity done through repetition. So once you get that, it all becomes so much more co creative and dynamic. And it keeps you engaged. You know, if I had the type of practice where I would just be like yada, 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 doing the same thing I was taught to do, I would have lost interest 25 years ago.
Yeah.
This keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you creating a co-creative uh, change with your client.
I love your
That's the
curiosity.
good
I
stuff.
can see
That's
it in you. It's just pure. Your client is your curiosity. How can I help?
yeah,
What am I learning? Yeah, I see it. Yeah,
yeah.
it's fascinating. I have
Because
it
then
myself, so I can
every
recognize it.
client then becomes a part of your learning journey.
Yeah,
Every single moment with a client, you are honing your skills. What can I see? Right? How can I say this in a way that they can hear it in four different ways? How can I say this in a way that lights up this region, taking the blood flow away from the problem region? How can I temporarily use language to halt the dominant hemisphere long enough to upload difference? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's the fun stuff. Yeah.
yeah. So we're all going to have to go to your workshop on the Thursday before the
Yes,
conference.
yes.
So you've just given us every
Please.
reason under the sun, and then you're going to show us how to have a super time with hypnosis during the conference itself, and actually help people as well. And we'll
Yeah.
probably enjoy the benefit in the process.
Yeah.
Yes, fair guess.
All right. How long is this? I think maybe
Yeah.
long enough. People don't watch things if they're too long. I've learned
I
that.
know that's exactly the point. That's
You know,
exactly the point. So anyone who's
I work
watching
with
by
New
now,
Yorkers,
fair
and
play to you for
everything has
staying
to
this long.
go under a minute. But you know, we're learning. Okay.
Melissa, thank you so much. I'm going to post all the details at the back of this, and it'll go out with all the conference channel stuff in the next couple of days. But it's just been wonderful. So thank you.
Yeah, fantastic.
I
I
can't
can't
wait to
wait
see you
for
in
it.
Dublin. Last question, right?
Yeah.
Very last question. If anyone's thinking about coming to the conference, the benefit of conferences for you, what is it that you found has been the benefit of
Yeah,
conferences?
I mean, community now more than ever, right? The in-person community is vital. I always say that I learn more from conversations over a cup of coffee and in the hallway, you know, than most people would ever imagine. But just getting together and laughing together and having human contact, you know, we live in this world that is very disconnected. At this point, almost all of my trainings, other than, you know, the workshops at conferences, are virtual, you
Yeah,
know. And so we really miss that contact, that, you know, community. And I have made friends at conferences that have been my friends for 30 years and will continue to be my friends probably until I die, because the beautiful thing about being in this field that has no cap on it is I got no desire to retire. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, I'll be traveling around as long as I can, you know? And so some of my dearest and closest friends I met, you know, in the hallway of a conference. My, you know, Stephanie, my assistant, is, you know, was my friend for years that I've met, you know, at a conference. So, you know, that's why
yeah.
I'm,
No.
yeah,
And likewise, and that's one of the reasons it's set up. I mean, for me, there's always four people will learn. Mostly they'll connect, they'll meet people, they'll make friends. The other side of it is, you can probably pick any country in the world, pick up the phone and go, any hypnotist there, we can just meet. You see, you're going to know somebody where you go anywhere because of this profession.
that's
And
it.
the other thing then is, of course, it does help the profession as we move forward together because we all want hypnosis to be a more ready to go or ready, easily used by the clients and accepted by the public, which is really what we're after. So
Totally.
being skilled up and upskilled at conferences like this and connecting and making partnerships with people is probably also one of the other primary reasons. But Melissa, I can't wait to see you in Dublin. It's not long now, it's about 6 months. It's going to be great.
I can't wait. Seriously, I cannot wait.
Only question is, right? Who's going to feed the plants when you're away?
My siblings.
There you go.
I live in a building that overlooks a beautiful park, and my sister and niece live in an apartment one floor below me. My daughter has a one-bedroom apartment above me.
Right, so
My
you're well covered.
yeah, so
We can all be
we call
safe.
it
The
our
plants
Bronx
will be fine.
commune. Plants will live.
Listen, thank you so
All right,
much.
John. I'll talk soon.